The AP Lit exam is on May 20th, and for a lot of people, in the few days before the actual exam itself, they're thinking, how do you prepare for an exam that's largely skill-based, and maybe not so content-heavy? Well, these are the last 4 things you should do to prepare yourself to be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confident. Let's see the steps. Number 1, familiarize yourselves with the actual process of rhetorical analysis, right? I gave you a cheat sheet that includes steps 1 through 5 that I want you to basically memorize and to internalize and basically make into breathing for you. How do you understand a prompt's context and task? How do you read and annotate? Get used to all those criteria as you go through from beginning to end. What you're really doing with any prompt, take any prompt, 2018, 2019, something even older than that, doesn't matter, but with any prompt you're given, here's what you actually want to do. Number 1, you got to consider, what is this prompt asking me to do? What is this reading about? What devices did the author use effectively? I need an intro, I need a thesis to address the prompts, I need body paragraphs that should have a good chunk of analysis each one. No summary. I mean, there is summary, but it shouldn't be like the primary focus, right? It should be more about the actual devices themselves or the choices the author makes. And then later you ideally aim for a conclusion with a bigger statement about the work, which all ties to about 700-750 words. This here is your exam, basically. If you can do all these steps and know what step you're on, whatever, then you are good to go. So get used to it, practice, do outlining or whatever. Just make sure you know what the time frame looks like and what you're supposed to do from minute to minute. A couple of suggested prompts. This is from 2014 to 2019, and they're all hyperlinked, so if you actually open the PowerPoint that this presentation comes from, you can click and access them, or you can just go on the AP website to look at all the previous exams and pick and choose the ones you want to do. Now, if you haven't noticed a trend yet, it seems to me that we're going to have another speech this year, or at least there's going to be a good number of speeches in the pile of essays that you get. If you think about 2016 and 2019, those are all speeches. 2015, it was an article, but looks like a speech. 2014, a letter. The exams that they gave as practice, 2 of them were speeches. One was a book's prologue, and one was an essay. If anything, it seems to be a more contemporary work. It seems to be, again, leaning towards speeches. It's nothing new. It's something we've done before. Nothing overtly tricky. So with that, just make sure you practice these particular, readings, even if we've done them before. It doesn't matter. Just review, get used to it, get comfortable, understand how long these readings actually are. Second step, make sure you know what you're being graded on. The rubric's been there since the very beginning, but you want to make sure what each item's asking you to do. For example, thesis, it asks you for, a defensible thesis that analyzes the writer's rhetorical choices. But you further want to think about what are some things that actually earn the points. They usually have these little bullet points on the bottom that show you how you can get the point itself. Respond to the prompt rather than restate or rephrase the prompt, and the thesis clearly takes a position rather than just stating that there are pros and cons. So you want to make sure that you are fulfilling all those criteria as you go along and thinking about, okay, does this paragraph have this? Does my essay include this? Have I been doing this all along? And if I had to boil it down for you, in evidence, it looks something like this, right? You want to make sure that when you're writing your paragraphs, your body paragraphs, that 1, you're making claims about what the author's doing. 2, you're supporting those claims with references to the reading. I'm talking about quotes, you're paraphrasing, your summary, right? A small chunk of it should be dedicated to summary and contextualizing what's happening. But the bulk of your body paragraphs, to earn the full 4 points, it should be explaining how those parts of the reading use devices to make the author's point. And you want to be specific. You want, more specific small quotes rather than big ass quotes that are wordy. You gotta pick what you need. You gotta make sure that you are economical in all this here. Sophistication is tricky to earn, but if you want to think about the things that usually give people the points for sophistication, you want to think about, okay, significance or relevance of the writer's rhetorical choices. Situation, kairos, what is the occasion, what's the timeline, why is the author writing this in a particular fashion to this particular audience. You also want to think about how the reading shifts, how the author might begin with one idea and then leads to another, right? Make the emphasis clear to your readers that you noticed it. Don't be afraid of, making big diction. Just making sure that you're a little bit poetic, making sure that you are good at presentations and transitions. Write like an author. You're not a student anymore. You're an author that is trying to critique another person's work in its effectiveness altogether. In the third step, you want to look at other students' works. These are the people who College Board have deemed 6 out of 6 or 9 out of 9. So in this case, you want to make sure that you look back to their work, the prompts that they wrote for, and how they were able to establish a thesis. How much did they write? What did they include in a single body paragraph? What was their writing style? How did they earn all those different categories? And I would suggest that you relook at 2018 and 2019's, because College Board did the favor of actually typing them out, so you don't have to like bleed your eyes to look at student samples that are handwritten. Go back, look at them, review them. I'll give you an example. If you look at this student's body paragraph that they provide, I believe it's 2018's exam here, they do a lot of analysis per body paragraph. They got a solid topic sentence, they got a little bit of summary underneath, and if you look at this red line that I drew here, it's all analysis from that point on. That's how much you want to make sure that you're doing here. It shouldn't be all summary. Summary is just a small part of it. Everything should be more about the devices, intentions, authors, points they're making. It's on you to infer, it's on you to bring out what is the best of the work that the author has done. So read what students have done, see their pacing, see how they structured everything. This is the goal that you're aiming for as well in the short 45 minutes you're given. I would say read 2 or 3 of the top scoring ones, meaning that you're going through different prompts, you're looking at maybe like 2 or 3 of the ones that are 9 out of 9, 6 out of 6, whatever, and just seeing what the tops are doing, seeing the ones that really succeeded. And you know what, it's kind of like shooting for the stars, and if you aim and hit a little lower, that's okay, at least you were shooting for the stars, you know what I mean? You know what the good ones were. Lastly, I know it seems basic, but practice. Everything I mentioned before, everything that we've been doing through warm-ups and everything like that, just make sure that you are practicing over and over again. So here's my suggestion in these last 3 points. Number 1, get comfortable with steps, with the times, with pressure. You will have a better shot if you walk in knowing what you have to do. You're going to have a little anxiety. The first minute or 2 is just processing and your brain adjusting, but after that, time to go. College Board has given a practice exam, a 4th item, a speech that we haven't covered before. I'm going to link it in the description. I'm going to post it on our school loop and remind. That's the last one you should practice because it's probably the one that's the most indicative of this year's exam. That's the one where all the steps, everything I mentioned before, you put into that exam there. And if you want to do a little bit more of leisure practice on the Tuesday before the exam itself, just take the Norton, take some essays, take the Siegel reader that we haven't touched for a while, and just look through some of the shorter ones and just, same thing. Look for rhetorical devices, look for a thesis you can give to it, just analyze as best as possible. And those are your 4 steps. Simple, one at a time. Make sure you're feeling, just feeling it. You're feeling the comfort, you're feeling the confidence, and you're getting used to what rhetorical analysis is all about. Treat the exam like a date. It's 45 minutes, you're sitting at the same table, you're looking at them at the only thing that matters in a time frame, you're focused, give it your whole attention, make sure it's the only passage in the world, you know what I mean? Not some rundown passage or essay from somebody else. And you want to make sure you're focusing on just the contents of that reading. Outside knowledge is good, but it's not the entirety. In fact, it should be a small part of it. It's passage, passage, passage. The reading is all that matters in those 45 minutes. It's the author, their purpose, and their methods. With that in mind, good luck. And if you have questions still before the exam day, feel free to ask, but that's what you want to practice, those last 4 steps, folks. Good luck.